or thought we didn't have the resources for, or were too busy doing much less important things to do the stuff that really matters. Churches are famous for focusing on minutiae so that they don't have to deal with the really big important stuff, right? They would never talk about it that way, but the fact is sometimes it's easier and safer to worry about the color of the Advent candles, or about the roof, or about which way we serve communion than it is to deal with the really big issues that are in front of us. I went to a meeting this past week, and I don't know if some of you may have noticed I'm a bit of a cynic. I went to a meeting of clergy people, and it was funny. One of the persons at the meeting said that she had spent 6 years trying to convince the session in that church to change from purple candles on the Advent wreath, since we no longer think of Advent as a purple time. And I thought to myself, why would you spend 6 years worrying about the color of Advent wreaths? But she decided that it was important that people would understand from the Advent wreath that it was a time of preparation, that is Advent, not a time of mourning, much like Lent. And so they needed to change the color of the candles. 6 years, I think to myself. And in response to another pastor, pointed out that the church has decided that instead of using purple candles on Advent, we use royal blue ones because it kind of fits in with Jesus becoming king, the advent of the king and the baby Jesus and the second coming. Cliff Acom was there, Cliff Acom. He's the interim pastor at Middletown United, and he is from Scotland. Which, if you know anything about Presbyterian churches, that's kind of our forebearers. Presbyterianism kind of came from European Reformation. It came to Scotland. And in Scotland, there are a bunch of really roughneck people. And so what happened there is they said, we don't like popes, we don't like bishops, we don't like the clergy being in charge of the church. We're going to put the landed nobility in charge of the church. And so they called them elders. And that's what we have in our church structure now, right? Elders get to decide what we do. It's pretty cool. It works for us. We kind of like it. But we wanted to know from Cliff, what do they do in Scotland with the Advent candle? Because obviously, if that's kind of the mother church, we ought to do with the mother churches. He says, oh, well, we just have all white candles. Why? He said, well, the center one's a little bit taller, and it's sometimes red, and it's sometimes green, and sometimes it's gold. Why? He said, because it looks pretty. This is the mother church giving us guidance. Because, quite frankly, the colors of the candles are not the point, right? I'm a rather cynical person. I don't think we should spend days or hours or years worried about the color of the candles. It seems to me that the church and its leaders ought to be focused on getting more people to come and follow Jesus, become disciples, and then change the world for the better than worry about the color of the candles. Let's make baskets and buckets and boxes and then get up and go clean flood-ravaged homes and preach the gospel to kids and to teens and to families and invite everyone to the table of the Lord. It seems to me that's what we're doing. Why in heaven's name are we worried about candles? We need to worry about people, the people for whom Christ died, the people Jesus so much wants us to love into wholeness, like those disciples down at the bottom of the Mount of Transfiguration. But maybe we haven't done that because we've been afraid to try and possibly to fail. Like the disciples. All they needed to do was cast out a demon. Easy peasy. I've never tried it, but my assumption is that you can cast out demons fairly easily. Evidently, that's not the case. Remember, these are the folks who got sent out preaching on preaching missions. 72 of them. And when they went, Jesus says, I saw Satan fall from a high place. They were able to cast out demons. They were able to make people well. They were able to bring good news. But these disciples, in this situation, somehow were not fearless. These disciples are followers of Christ just like us. We assume sometimes that they are clear about who they are, that they know what to do, that they know how to do it, and then they are like an unstoppable machine working to make the kingdom of God just work. But it turns out the disciples weren't at all like that. They're exactly like us. A group that I'm sure Jesus sometimes felt like was a herd of cats. Rounding them up and setting them on task was impossible. We know that the call to us as disciples is to make more disciples. But we get distracted, off mission, lost in the weeds, until we get to the point that while the harvest is huge, there aren't enough workers. Not a lack of people who love Jesus, don't misunderstand me, and who want to follow Jesus. Just a lack of disciples who want to become the apostles Jesus intends us to be. Just a lack of people who want to go and do what Jesus wants to get more folks just like you. I said on Thanksgiving Eve that there is a church in New Jersey that decided it needed to do some new thinking about fulfilling the harvesting call. It's in a community in New Jersey where a lot of people moved in because they had great school systems, and everybody wanted their kids in the best school system, so they came and they had their kids and they got them through the school system, and now those parents are aging in place. They haven't left. And so there's this huge senior community that is growing and expanding in their community at the same time that this church for 20 years has been trying to reach out and get children and youth, and been rather spectacularly unsuccessful. They don't have a Sunday school, they don't have a youth group, but they keep saying to themselves, the youth are our future. And so they keep trying to find youth, but while they've been doing that, the church is shrinking. Along comes a new pastor, and he says, well, you've tried for many years to reach out and get children and to get youth, and that hasn't worked. But you notice the demographics say that there's this huge senior citizen community. What would you have to do to get seniors to come to church? Anybody have any suggestions? What do you need to do to have seniors come to church? The first thing somebody said at 9:30 was to get a bus. Because seniors can't drive, evidently. I don't understand. Well, this church went out and decided it needed to get better lighting because, of course, senior citizens can't see. What kind of stereotypes are we dealing with? You know, they had to get a better sound system because obviously senior citizens can't hear. If any of you are married, you know what I'm talking about. Right? Then they thought a little bit deeper and said, you know, if we wanted to get seniors in our community to come out, we would have to do things. We have to have confidence, because there's two kinds of senior citizens in this world. There's senior citizens who are typically the grandparent bunch. They're young, they're energetic, they're doing all kinds of things, they're moving. You know the old Jewish proverb, life begins when the children move out and the dog dies. This is the group we're talking about, right? They can go out, they can party. You know, this is the group that the children come home and wonder where their parents are. You know, this is the way it's supposed to be. So they decided they were going to try and reach out to this group, so what do they have to do? So what they started a travel group, and then they started a walking group, and then they started a hiking group, and then they decided they would teach people how to do photography, how to use their cell phones, because as a senior, I don't know how to use a cell phone, and neither does anyone else that is my age, basically. The reality is they started a whole bunch of groups. One of the groups I thought was really interesting, how to cook for just one. When you're the only one home, or it's just you and your spouse, and you start to cook, you know, when you go back and you're cooking 6 chicken breasts, it really doesn't work anymore. So they decided to focus. Well, guess what's happening in the church? The church is stuffed. It's a great Thanksgiving metaphor. The church is stuffed. Is anybody out there? The church is stuffed with senior citizens. And the interesting thing is, now they have to start a children's ministry. Guess why? Because when grandparents come to church, they bring grandchildren. And so they've had to have a children's ministry, and now they're talking about a youth ministry, because instead of focusing on the one field that was white to harvest, that they thought they had to harvest, they noticed that there was another field. And it really begs the question, how the church, when it looks at what's going on in the world, notices that there's lots of places and lots of people and lots of opportunity. They needed to reach out to a new place. They were like most church folks, well-meaning but not empowered. And so instead of worrying about the harvest, some churches worry about Advent candles instead of worrying whether everyone is in worship. But next Sunday starts Advent. I don't know if you knew this. This is Christ the King Sunday. Next Sunday is Advent. There's 4 Sundays, and then there's Christmas. I think Advent candles are great. Don't get me wrong. I think they're really cool. It reminds us of where we are in the process. But what I care about even more is how many people will be in worship those 4 Sundays and then Christmas Eve. I care about how many people will be able to watch one of our Christmas Eve services in high def at home, or on the road, or even in that hospital in Pittsburgh. And they have been, because we have a better camera set up and people to run it and money to pay for it. I care about how many lives will be touched with the gospel, how many people will feel God's presence close to them this Advent, because we, the disciples, have quit worrying about how to do the details right and have started worrying about the business of the kingdom, of harvesting and extending God's presence everywhere. This church is amazing. I don't know if you heard, Jim and Will delivered 73 buckets, flood buckets, to the depot in Connecticut. They'll go on so that they can go to flooded places. And then you think about all the Christmas boxes and all the Thanksgiving baskets and all the other things we've done. We are amazing. And knowing that, we also know that we can do this. So the question is, what haven't we done because we've been too afraid to try? Or thought we didn't have the resources for it? Or we're too busy doing much less important stuff to do what really matters? That is the stuff we need to start doing. In Jesus' name, let's pray. Gracious God Almighty, we thank you that you've called us not to little things but big things, to make a difference in people's lives, and to put our faith to work, including in the lives of those who may feel themselves captured and not in a place where they can get free. We pray, oh God, that your love, your power, your grace would fill this whole community, and that we would start making a difference in the way that you so much desire. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.